let's just go around the room this morning and maybe you can tell me how you're doing if you were able to get the book and, kind of first impressions if you were. John, you want to start since you were the first on board, and then Ben, then Adila, then whoever joins next?
Well, obviously, we have a real book.
Yeah, we have a paper book. It's hard to go wrong with that.
I thought this is probably one of the few books that I've run across that isn't rehashing the same old crap.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about enabling the buyer journey from using the words enable instead of control, and customer lifetime value instead of pushing everything and trying to force sales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mindset that's got to change. And I just thought that was an interesting approach. So it's definitely not the same stuff that everybody seems to regurgitate along the way.
Yeah, that we have been reading. And it's far more Bill Caskey than Zig Ziglar, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's for sure. Welcome, Angel. We're just going around the room with John, Ben, Adila, and then you. So first impressions and how things are going. So
yeah, well, no, I joined. I'm interested in the discussion.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, I understand the concepts, but probably weak at doing it. The idea of trying to make sure we're creating a path,
right.
to the engagement. So right now, as you know, we're selling an airplane, and we're just trying to get people interested enough to start looking into it, and then following up with a conversation. Currently, we're really planning on a person. Michael will sell the plane to the person, as opposed to trying some kind of automated system like Amazon or anybody else like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking to sell online, but we do need the process to get them to make that phone call. Mm-hmm. Or to, as you know, go online and say, yeah, I'm interested enough so that Michael can reach out and call them and make the deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, any facts and information that helps us, I'm interested.
I think this one is also a good fit for you guys as well. So I'm really happy you're here.
Oh, what's interesting is...
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm not on the camera. It's a little early here, but
yeah. I'm just
Angel's all nice and camera ready as always, but
and Adila too in the middle of the night.
And Adila too. Yep. That's good. Normally I would be. Today I'm a little bit short of it, but I might be able to get on the camera here in a little bit.
No problem. We're just happy to have your smiling face in whatever form we can get it. So that's great.
Whatever form we can get it. Yeah, good. Okay.
Cool. Adila, your thoughts. I know we struggled to get you this book and we failed, but
yes, as you can see from the front page that it is about B2B sales and marketing, and a lot of clients that we deal with, their sales, like their model is B2B. So I really wanted to, get to know about this because, you never know enough. So it's always better to learn more. So that's why I was interested in reading the book, but unfortunately, we were not able to do that. So that's why I wanted to join the discussion, and I plan to join these discussions more, so that get to learn new things. So I hope I learn a thing or two today.
Excellent.
So, Adila, why don't you try using ChatGPT to see if it can help you?
Oh.
I tried. So it was just giving me this instruction to change the location, and I tried changing it. I used the VPN, and I literally spent some time of today's morning to find a way, but it was like no use. And I thought that maybe the VPN is not working on my laptop, so I even downloaded the Amazon app on my mobile, and the Amazon app is not available in my country on
Oh,
the apps app store. So I downloaded it through an other means, but then again it was not working. Nothing was working, so I
uh,
gave up.
okay.
I started doing my other tasks then.
Yeah, we will find a solution. Great. All right. Angel, happy you're here. What did you have any, I guess, first impressions?
As I just accepted the book this today because I just
Yeah.
received email. But yeah, I'm interested on the revenue zone of on the book because for the last 4 years I'm working here on site in our country B2C which is business to customer. So I'm interested more to deep dive on B2B and to get some practical guide on how this really business really works.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, for us in aviation, most of our clients are either B2B or very close to B2B because the purchase size is so large. There's usually more than one person involved in the decision, and there are usually more than one, situation. So even, Ben's airplane, I mean, it's I guess, technically a B2C sale, but I suspect in a lot of cases we'll be selling to either a, family or a family trust or a company or something like that, just because that's the way people typically manage airplanes in the United States for tax reasons and things, so
Well, what's interesting, I mean, they're building something new, so that makes it a lot different, but we bought our
Mhm.
first airplane for a postcard
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. Alright, so,
What was that, John? We bought our first airplane. What?
from a postcard.
Oh, right. Well, there you go.
yeah.
Because, I mean, it was Cessna, right? So
Yeah.
they send out these postcards, and I fully intended to buy one, and I got that postcard, and it I lost it. I don't know what the hell happened with it. So they sent me another one, and I said, I'll put that on the fridge, and I'm going to use it." But in the process of doing that, somewhere that one got lost. The third postcard that came, I said, "Damn it!" And I called the number, and the rest is history. But it took 3 postcards because I didn't know who to talk to. I mean, I can't call a factory. I mean, who the hell are you to talk to?
Mhm. Right, exactly. So even a B2C sale has some B2B elements for us. Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things about the book was the different, breaking the funnel. The funnel's kind of been the thing since, and we talked about this a little bit in our last book club. For the past 50 years, everybody has sold using a funnel and assuming that people get on a path toward making a purchase and they follow a set of steps. Uh, Between the postcard, in John's case, the postcard may be the top of the funnel here, the awareness or whatever, and then they have a consultation or whatever, and da 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 da, and then they learn about the price, they learn about other things, and so forth. And so after the series of steps, then you can make the purchase. But customers are running amok. They're basically not wanting to follow our agenda; they want to follow their own agenda. And, John, I know you've got some opinions about this. You can tell when you're in a funnel when you can't get a price on a product. They won't tell you, or it's not on the website, or whatever, because they make you jump through some hoops before you can get to that point in their funnel. But I think modern customers are, we use a cycle instead of a funnel, because we're in aviation and we feel that that's more appropriate because we've got a small group of prospective customers and a number of other reasons. But we assume that this is like a holding pattern at an airport. People enter this cycle at any point they want to. So, I mean, if they've been watching our podcast for years and they know they want to work with us, we'll just, take them right to the green section of the cycle. More often than not, they start with a yellow section and they, follow their way around, but they jump around. They go to holding pattern, they go to approach, they go to referrals and testimonials, they go back to the holding pattern. You know, it's the customer that's in charge, not us. And I think, that's a failing of a lot of companies is, that they're expecting to be able to control the customer and be able to control the flow of information to the customer. But there's so many sources of information nowadays. John, you could have used ChatGPT and found out what the price of a 172 was if it had been available back then, and you wouldn't have needed a sales guy, to answer a lot of your questions.
Yep. But it wasn't.
Right. It wasn't. So you followed a funnel. Nowadays, you're a whole lot more likely to just jump around to wherever the heck you want because you're that way, right?
Well, when I find something I want,
Mhm,
I turn oblivious to all the bullshit. I
mhm,
go straight for the product, whatever it is, and
mhm.
they start giving me crap about it, I'll go somewhere else. I don't like phone trees.
Having to schedule a webinar.
I don't like all that stuff just takes away from my time. And if I want something, I know what I want.
Mhm,
Sell me what I want. Don't go trying to sell me what you think I want.
mhm.
And, and the quicker you determine that, I think, well, in my case, I mean, I don't
Right, I know we always use you as our um, customer profile because you're suspicious and you're the right demographic, so
well, time is the one thing that nobody has enough of. It's a finite number.
yeah,
And don't waste it on somebody.
right. I think that's pretty typical of our demographic. Their most precious commodity in a lot of cases is not money, it's time. They want what they want when they want it, and they want the most efficient use of their time. So I think it's important to have a structure and to have a cycle, but it's also important to adapt that to what the customer's asking for. If they want to know the prices, we'll tell them the prices.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is if they know they want a product, but they don't, and they've just seen one. I mean, because that's how I got started in this whole game a bunch of years ago. Is I saw something and
Mhm.
I wanted one, and I thought I had to build it because there was no name on it. There was nothing. So, but you know, you go out like I go out and see a 172, and I will take a closer look at it at the airport. I mean, airports aren't the same anymore. You can't just walk out there and walk around the airplanes like you used to. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, it's the whole game has changed, and that's one of the things he says.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anybody else have anything to add to this? Basically, what's changed maybe over the last 3, 5 years?
We
Um,
might have had someone join.
we did. Chris, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And you may have some insights on how people buy charter flights, which is very different than it was a few years ago because people didn't used to have access to all of the information they have now. People can look things up and find their own path, pretty much, other than they aren't as dependent on the broker, I would say, as they were 3 years ago.
Hey,
All right.
Paula.
Hey,
Sorry. You.
no problem. Good to see you. Sorry to put you on the spot. But this is a perfect example of charter sales is, this difference between the way things used to be where, you would have a charter guy that was the fountain of all knowledge and, the charter customer didn't know anything about airplanes, didn't know anything about pricing, and they relied on their guy for every piece of information. And now we have the internet and
Yeah,
ChatGPT and all those wonderful things. So,
exactly. And it seems like if you don't put it on the internet, then you just don't know it. So,
mhm,
what we're seeing is people like Steve Rosano, they're showcasing their knowledge in the industry, and
mhm.
people are leaning towards that personal branding side. And the more knowledge you put out there, the more people you draw. So, even though it's affecting us that way, and people aren't relying on the broker as much, they rely on what they see on social media, and if you're showing that you know what you're doing in the space, and they tend to uh, follow you.
Absolutely, and I think that's exactly right. You want to be a guide and not a a salesperson now, just because of the way things have changed. So, yeah, the core idea of the book, you can't push people to buy, you must guide them to a place where they are ready. This is the antithesis of the Zig Ziglar sales model, right? I mean, he used to be, I have your product in the trunk of my car, you have my money in your wallet. I'm just here to make the exchange. That's a pretty famous Zig Ziglar quote, that
Oh yeah.
the sale was assumptive, I mean, I'm here and I have whatever it is that he was selling and therefore I'm not leaving until I sell it to you. Um and I think that's a disrespect, of the customer, in a lot of ways because, that was back in the day when there was only one purveyor of any particular thing and so on. Yeah. So, and the goal in the book, move prospects from curiosity through trust to readiness to act, without having a rigid funnel or a rigid process they have to go through with all of the hoops and things. So, all right. So I mentioned, today we're going to kind of summarize the book a little bit and then come back to it because I know a lot of people just don't have time to read the books. But feel free to jump in anywhere you have something you'd like to add. So, what is the revenue zone? What does he mean by that? And what he means is the revenue zone is the space where people trust your business, buyers specifically, trust your business. They understand your solution and they are actively considering a purchase. I call this my pipeline. These are the 20 or so people that I'm actively pursuing at any given time. And, this is what I'm trying to build with them. They know enough about us to know whether or not it's a good solution for them. They understand how we're different from other marketing agencies, as an example, and they're actively considering doing business with us. And, at some point they may decide yes or no, but the not yets are the revenue zone. And this is what it's about, is just increasing that pool or increasing that pipeline. I like to use the metaphor, it's like growing tomatoes. You never know when you're gonna have a good tomato, but the more tomato plants you have and the more tomatoes there are on these plants, the more likely it is that we're gonna have a good tomato sandwich for lunch, tomorrow or the next day or next week. We don't know, but we do know that we can improve our likelihood, by taking care of those tomato plants. So we don't know, and we're not gonna push any particular tomato or any particular plant to do this. We just want to create the environment where that is more likely to happen. More like farming than hunting, I guess, is kind of the metaphor I like to use. Okay, so here's the three steps. One, create the destination, which is basically defining your buyer's promised land. What is it that they want from working with you? And I kind of hate the fact that he's using the Moses reference here, because that was like 40 years in the desert, I mean, I don't remember that much about Sunday school, but to me that seems a little arduous for for this purpose. But, you guys may have other opinions, and, obviously he thought it was a good idea because he used that terminology. Second, build the pathways, develop the content and the tools to guide them step by step toward the promised land, which is another place where his metaphor falls apart because Moses didn't know what he was doing. So he didn't build any pathways. They were just wandering the desert, right? And then number three is guide the engagement. Use data and automation to deliver the right help at the right time to anybody who is lost or in need of information. So that's the three-step framework. And rather than the funnel, this is kind of his answer to that.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
It does. Yeah, and, all roads lead to Rome. If you have many different ways for people to reach your product, like we have our website, we have our podcast, we have LinkedIn, we've got a bunch of different front doors open to customers, and they find us in different ways. We have some that are better than others, but, having different pathways for people to find us based on where they are and what their preferences are, I think is really helpful. And then, guide the engagement. I love his discussion of the tech stack, and we'll talk about that later. Most people have a lot of information and automation that they're not using. We know a lot of our clients actually use things like Salesforce and HubSpot, and they don't use a lot of the tools or data or analytics and other things that come with what they're paying for, which drives me crazy because if you're paying for something, you really should be getting the most out of those tools. And that data and automation really should help inform you. These are the people you should be spending time on. These are the people that are the most likely to have a need soon. These are the tomatoes that are getting ripe that you need to be zoning in on for that tomato sandwich you're after. All right. So, to kind of dive into those 3 steps. Step 1, um, create the promised land. Define a clear, compelling outcome for your buyer that is not about the product. So in Ben's case, it's about transportation, or it's about sustainability, or it's about being able to be in 3 meetings in one day, whereas if they were driving, they could get to 1, if that. So, those are those clear, compelling outcomes. It's not your product, right? Um, I guess the old, um, metaphor they used to use from sales, courses is you're not selling the drill, you're selling the hole. People don't buy a drill because they want a drill, they buy a drill because they want to put holes in something. So, you're selling the outcome, not the method. Um, and Chris, in your situation, they want to either have an experience or take a vacation or whatever without the hassles of the airlines. And in Erica's case, you want to be able to take your family somewhere, or you want to be able to not have to worry about a medical situation because somebody's got that handled for you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's step 1. Step 2, and this is building the pathways. So these are some of the pathways that he mentions in the book, and I actually love all of these. I think, the more pathways you have to your promised land or to the outcome that you're selling, the better, because some are going to hit people in different ways. Some of them are going to resonate better with different people. And in a lot of business to business sales, you have to convince more than one person. You have to convince your champion, you have to convince their accountant, you have to convince the legal team, you have to convince the board. There's like a lot of different people and they all have different personalities. So having a bunch of different materials in your um, quiver will really help you do that. Even in Ben's case, you may have a husband and wife. One's super analytical and conservative, and one is out there and just wants it. So you've got 2 different use cases where you're going to have to convince people in 2 different ways. So one may really love your video walkthroughs and, say, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want one," and they're sold with that. But the other people that are involved in that purchase might need an ROI calculator or a case study or, some of those things that Michael's really good at with the, educational materials and things like that.
Well, it could be an investor as well.
Oh,
Investors
yeah.
are group decisions. So, yeah,
Mhm.
when we're fundraising,
Mhm.
it's definitely more address the group.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think a lot of the ways that he assumes this is he's assuming that people are going to use Google and ChatGPT and other things to find what they're looking for. So if they're asking about the cost effectiveness of this particular situation or this particular product, they're going to come to your ROI calculator, but if they ask a question about what is the best possible way to get to the Kentucky Derby or whatever, then that's going to be a different, uh, set of materials. And as if they find what they're looking for and they find a path that's attractive to them, then that makes your product a whole lot more attractive as well. So that's step 2, ungated. And this is the opposite, right, of what we were doing 2010, right? When we were building white papers and ROI calculators and even demos where we would ask where people's email addresses and things like that in order to provide the content to them. Nowadays, we have tools like Leadfeeder, which will tell us, they've been on our website. We don't need to gate materials, and we don't need to get in their way, and we don't need to add that kind of friction. So, in most cases, we can kind of tell this person has opened 20 of our emails, and these are the things that they've clicked on. So we know quite a bit about people just from the metrics, and we don't need to be gating material or refusing to give them the pricing information or whatever until they attend a webinar. I mean, that's just insane in my opinion nowadays. So, all right, so that's building the pathways. Step 3 is being a guide, guiding them to the engagement. So this is the difference between a guide and a salesperson. So, we know where to spend our time based on, what we just talked about, using that HubSpot data or that MailChimp data or the website data or whatever it is to figure out who should we be spending our time with, and, who is spending the most time with our materials. Those are the people that we need to be spending the most time with because they're the ones that have the curiosity and the interest. So we trigger our engagement based on their behavior. They're leading this dance. It used to be that we were leading them. Now they're leading us, right?
So we're in this laundry list of stuff that he talks about.
Mm.
And with respect to the sale of an aircraft,
Okay.
I mean, just thinking about me,
Yeah.
I would not go very far in the process until I have put my eye on the product,
Okay.
craft, sat in it, looked around it, not necessarily fly it, but
Mhm.
I want to make sure, I don't know, that it's a quality product. 'Cause I remember uh, a long time ago, I bought a Toyota rather than a Ford. And my dad has been a Ford guy forever. The company he ended up running had 160 cars from Ford. I mean, they were doing everything Ford.
Mhm.
This particular year, I went to the Ford dealer, was looking at a car, and he was started this old pressure you to buy thing that I used to do. And I looked at him and I said, "Come take a look at this car." And he said, "Yeah, it's nice." And I said, "No, it stinks." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "There's the fit on this thing. There's way too much here and there. The parts aren't even close enough together. They got to rattle."
This
Uh,
was back in the day when Ford was stinky, right?
oh yeah, and so I said, "You know what?" And then I went and I got the Toyota and I brought it back to him and I said, "Now look at this car." I said, "You have a job to do, and that is to push back to Ford and tell them what customers need.
Mhm.
They may not need it to look as nice as this one, but they need something that's quality, and you got to, it has to be there." So in other words, in an aircraft, um, where in the process do you, I mean, because a lot of these sales and contacts and everything, they're not face to face.
No.
So when do you do that? When through the process would be a good place to do that?
To do what? The fit and finish or the, see the
No, no,
product?
no, no, no. So they where the customer can get, because I wouldn't buy an aircraft without looking at it.
Of course not. But you also,
That's
as a
that's
broker.
what my question is, where in
Yeah.
the process do you look at it if you haven't? And
Okay.
particularly when a new one has been manufactured like Ben and Michael, I mean, when assume they got a lineup of 15 people that say, "Yeah, I wanna buy that."
Yeah.
Where in the process do you do that?
Do
Or you
a
fly it out or fly them in or do something. You're gonna spend some money no matter which way you're going.
Oh,
How
yeah.
do you know that this customer is serious enough to spend money on?
Yeah.
I guess that's the question.
Right. So that's what they don't talk about in the book enough, I think, as qualification. How do you qualify a customer and know that they have the money, authority, and need for this product, right?
Yeah, no, 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 you're missing it.
So it's worth bringing them out and investing the money to have them come out and look at one or do a test flight or whatever, because you're
No,
spending money on that.
yeah, but somewhere in there,
Mhm.
before you spend the money and before they're willing to buy, I mean, there's gonna be there's a place in there where you're gonna lose a sale because you're not willing to spend the money and get either the guy to come look at it or take the aircraft to him. But then, by the same token, you don't wanna take it out there if he ain't gonna buy.
Right. So
And
you
just
need
because he's qualified does not mean he's gonna buy.
agreed, but that is how you know that it is likely. If he has the money and authority and need, then it is 90% on you as a salesperson to, uh, meet his needs, right?
But you
Because he's
see,
got
the
the
thing
money, the
is,
authority.
when I bought that airplane,
Uh-huh.
I didn't have all 3 of those, I had 2. I
Right,
didn't have a need, I had a want.
right. So he needs to decide, where do you stand on that continuum, and he needs to make a good decision about, is it worth having John come out here, make an appointment, have him come out and look at this airplane? Um,
Yeah, no, it's a judgment thing, but I'm just
yeah,
wondering what process that step fits typically
yeah,
because it changed, but
right. So before you spend time and money on a prospect, you need to qualify them in some way, and it's never gonna be perfect. It's always gonna be a judgment of, do they have the money? Do they have the authority? And do they have enough of a need that I could tip them, into making this, purchase, right?
yeah, and I'm trying to recall because the sales guy I ended up talking to, when we got down and figured out a lot of stuff, then he said, "Well, I can fly it out to you, or you can drive out, or you can do this or that or the other thing."
Mhm,
Uh, I I wish I could go back and figure
mhm,
what he based that approach on.
yeah.
Something I said or did, I don't remember.
Well, and one thing that we can do is push that down so that there is a lot that you could do before I know you're qualified. So you, John, as the customer, and me, Paula, as the salesperson, I can send you all kinds of videos. I can send you all kinds of demos. I can send you all kinds of data that will satisfy you, some of your curiosity. I can send you the pricing information. There's a lot that I can do for you without investing a ton of money, because once these are built, they are super cheap to deploy, right?
Yeah, but you're missing it still.
Okay.
Mhm. All that's fine and well.
Ben, you're agreeing with him.
I wanna know
No, I'm good.
I
Okay.
wanna
No, I
know
was just going to say, if you understand this
with
better, maybe a
respect to an
different.
airplane, I
Hmm.
wanna know
Yeah.
that I'm gonna like the way it looks.
Hmm.
I'm gonna like the way it feels, and that's squirrely, but that's,
Yeah.
you know, and so on, and when you have a new one, it's worse because there's nothing out in the airport you can go look at.
Right. So there is a point at which it departs this, and you have to decide, okay, this person has enough money, authority, and need, enough interest, that I'm going to take the next step, whatever that is, and I'm going to invest in the next step to make this sale.
Cool.
So
I
I
was
can't
thinking,
answer that question, but that's what the question is, right?
Yeah, I think so, and it's a judgment call on probably both the buyer and the seller.
Right. But
Well, I,
oh, go ahead, Ben.
I think the big question is people need not everybody needs to see it to
Yeah.
buy it.
Hmm.
That's a personal preference to purchase.
Hmm.
In our case, the plane looks good. We
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that there's an emotional decision to purchase, so we can show them a picture.
Hmm.
They understand that we don't have one built, but yes, it's true that having a prototype, having something you bring to an air show, having that's why they build. We looked at. We've been talking to companies that build demos.
Hmm.
They build demonstrators, or they build a they build an ability to sit in the cabin without building the whole plane.
Yeah.
It's so there's a whole bunch of things to connect to the emotional final decision to purchase,
Mhm.
and different people need different things. But I think we are tac what is it, tactile people. We, touch
Yeah.
and feel it, sit in it. When they sell a car, a lot of cars, the trick is to get you to sit in it. You
Yeah.
know, listen to the engine run. Once you're sitting in it, it's like when you find a dog. Once you name it, you probably you're gonna keep it. But
Right.
so they're trying to get you to the part where you name it.
Right.
You know, I can see that.
Right.
Different people do different things. Investors don't
Mhm.
buy that way.
No.
Their investments based on spreadsheets, they're going to be based on financials.
Yep.
Their sitting in it is their ability to connect to the customer's benefit. If
Correct.
you can get an investor to connect to the customer benefit, they name it,
Yeah.
then you're likely to get an investment. Assuming I love that, the idea that they have the authority to do the purchase, they have the money to do the purchase, and they have a need.
Yeah.
They're trying to make money on their money. They don't want it sitting around.
Right.
Yeah, I know
Right.
in my dad's case with Ford, he bought 25, 30, or 50 cars a year, and, he didn't give a care. I mean, he didn't care because they just needed the cars.
Yeah, to him, it was a
But when
solution.
it's a and that's a valid thing, because in his position, he was like an investor.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah. Well, businesses buy differently.
They
When
yeah,
you're
do.
buying in bulk, you're looking to solve a problem for a business. It's still an emotion or emotive driven decision, but it's one that and that's the key. You got to connect to the right thing. If you're the guide
Mhm.
and someone wants to take a hike that's physically challenging, that's different than someone who wants a hike that has, beautiful fauna and a great view, but they're not particularly interested in a physical workout. There's
Yes.
different,
I love
you
that. I
know.
love that. And it fits this metaphor perfectly because, there are some people who want an easy walk in the woods, and some people it's gonna be challenging for you and for them to get them to buy if they're a tactile person and they have to see one and sit in one. But there's lots and lots of other paths that you could build in the meantime, right? That are easier and more rewarding, hopefully to them depending on their motive, right?
yep.
Okay, cool. So we get to continue. You guys are satisfied that I'm not blowing smoke here?
Oh, no, I knew that. I'm just trying to figure out
Okay. And that Tom Burton is not blowing smoke. Actually, I think, he's doing a really good job. So, how this differs, from actual sales, or from traditional sales funnels. So the traditional funnel is sales-led. This one is buyer-led. The traditional funnel is linear and rigid, you have to do this before I will give you that. Um, Revenue zone is flexible and dynamic, so they find what they're looking for, or you send them what they're looking for. You're responding to their requests and things like that. Cold outreach versus warm, trust-based engagement, they find you.
Well, there's the answer right there, because as long as you do that part, then the part about when they look at the airplane
Mhm.
works.
Yeah. So this is inbound as opposed to outbound. We have to do both sometimes because we need the volume, that we get from a cold outreach. So, we have to have a good method for that. Traditional funnel is gated. Revenue approach is, helpful and freely accessible. Um, there's a question that you answer when you set up a new website in WordPress, and it says, "Do you want this to be indexable by, AI?" And if you are in marketing, the answer is always yes. because of this principle. You want AI to have this information and you want it to use it and you want it to hopefully lead people back to you. But whether or not they do, you want educated customers because that's good for everybody. Um, in the traditional funnel, there's a marketing to sales handoff. In the revenue zone approach, sales and marketing have to work together. And this is kind of the difference between like the Madison Avenue traditional marketing agencies, like the Don Draper, Mad Men kind of agency versus ABCI, because we are um, collaborative with each of our customers. And if our customers don't meet with us every month, then we get out of sync. And that is not a good thing. So our business model really depends on that collaboration. So I think I love this book because it's doing what we do and it's articulating what we want to articulate in a way that's different. So I think we might include this in our buyer journey, sending people this book with our blue folder maybe, saying this is what we do.
As a matter of fact, when I
Mm,
looked at it, I thought you could have written it
mm.
because of the way you do things.
It is very, very similar to what we do. And I think that's because of the B2B focus. So, and also because of the technology focus, right?
Mm.
So, key takeaways: stop chasing leads, focus on guiding buyers. Um, People don't like being chased, but they like being guided. They like guidance when they request it and things like that. Align teams around the buyer's journey. Um, this becomes a little bit interesting, and for each client, it's different because each client has a different buyer's journey. And, some of our clients have sales teams. Some of them, the founder is the sales guy or the only sales guy or the only sales team there is. Build trust and curiosity, not pressure. Measure progress into and through the revenue zone. And success is moving the right buyers at the right time. Say you've got a lot of tomatoes getting ripe at a particular time, but you don't know which one is going to be on your sandwich tomorrow. Another thing I really loved was the tech stack. He had an entire chapter on the revenue zone tech stack. And a lot of these things are things that look very familiar to us, right? Angel and Adila, we've got Basecamp, Calendly, Leadfeeder. We use SEMrush here rather than Google Analytics. I think it's a little easier. But these are all things that we're very familiar with and that we're already using. And I think most companies already have some of these, but may not be using them in this way, right? They're not using them to see how close are we getting people to the revenue zone and are we keeping them in the revenue zone long enough to get them to the point of making a purchase. And, are we using these things effectively to figure out who needs guidance and who needs just time to do their own thing, right?
I think some companies have technology they've heard is good and they buy it, but they don't use it to
Yeah.
the fullest extent.
Mhm.
Maybe not even 50 to 60% of it.
Yeah.
So
There's nothing. Go ahead.
I got an email the other day from somebody and it says from Salesforce. I said, seriously? Come on, guys. You're wasting money. I
Yeah.
know what that costs.
Mhm. Well, I love Salesforce, but only for, people that are going to use the whole thing,
That's exactly my point.
right? And people that have a need, because 'cause they've got multiple salespeople getting different levels of commissions and things there's nothing better for
Right.
that purpose, and it does give you a ton of data if it's configured correctly. But most of the people using Salesforce, I'd probably say maybe 60, 70%, um, just bought it because it was the cool thing to buy, and they think it's going to do all the work for them without them having to put any thought into their sales process.
It's a lot of work to use if you do it right.
Yeah. That's pretty much the summary of the book as we can do in less than an hour, but, it's definitely worth a read, I think, for anybody who's doing business to business sales.
Yep.
The educate,
Yeah.
the educate part.
Oh, yeah.
I have mixed feelings about. We used to say you really can't educate when we were doing customer experience, the idea of the website, it was a mixed bag. You think, well, you're teaching them something, but you really can't teach people. You
Okay.
can't teach the crowd kind of problem. It's very hard to, it's one thing when they show up in school
Yeah.
and you've got a classroom and you're teaching because that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But I struggle with we used to say, well, with navigation, we used to be very adamant that you never make any money teaching people to navigate a website.
That's true.
If the navigation takes brain power, it's failed.
Right.
But maybe the primary part of the website, they're there to learn something. But I'm wondering whether it's more of a connect to something. When I was working with startups years back, the number of times that a VC or a possible investor would say, well, we just want to get involved in the Uber of something. We
Oh
want to
God.
get in the
Yeah.
Uber of pizza. Everything was a link to something they knew.
Yeah.
They wanted this version of that story,
Yeah.
of that. And it wasn't an education process. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It was frustrating actually, because in a lot of cases they're trying to invest in something that's already there because it works. And you're thinking, yeah, but it's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just go invest in that, not
Yeah. Yeah. Don't create a
another of
new one.
those.
Right.
Don't create a new one, go invest in that one. But they didn't because it was too expensive.
Yeah. By that time, they'd
Now,
missed the window.
right. Now they're looking for another chance to do what they missed, which is interesting when you think about that.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
I don't usually tell people, my master's was in adult education, and the biggest difference between educating adults and educating children is motivation. Because if you have a bunch of kids in a room, you've got a captive audience. If they like the teacher and they're even having any remote variation of fun and, they wanna please their parents and everything else, you don't have to worry about motivation. But with adults, motivation is the entire game. You have to give them what they want when they want it, and they have to be in control of that journey. So, I mean, that fits this really, really well. Adults will not spend any energy learning anything unless it is a clear and imminent benefit to them, or a clear and imminent danger if they don't learn it.
And with respect to navigating a website,
Mhm.
it's gonna be a pain, I go somewhere else.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Because
just
you can get the same information a different way. Information is not the limiting factor anymore. You can get it any number of places, and it used to be that was in short supply, but now everybody has access to all information they want, and probably more than they could ever use.
I mean, as an example, yesterday, and this
Mhm.
is not a website because I got an email from a company that I want to do business with, and so they had a phone number there. I called them
Yeah.
directly to the guy who's the sales guy, and I said, "Boy, is that refreshing." I said, "What do you mean?" No phone tree, none of this other crap trying to sell me stuff I don't want. I got right to the guy, and I made an appointment, and I'm gonna see you in a couple of days. Works. Thank
Fantastic. Yeah, they removed all the friction, gave you exactly what you wanted when you wanted it, so that's great. Alright, well, should we go around the room and maybe give it a, rating or anything that you learned that you didn't know before you joined us? And we'll start with John, Ben, Adila, Angel, Chris, and Erica. I think that was the order that we joined in. Does that sound right?
That's fine.
You sound so enthusiastic, John. That's fine.
Well, I mean, it's hard to rate stuff, but
Yeah,
I would put this up closer to a 9 than I've ever had anything else, just simply because it's a new approach.
yeah, that resonated with you. That's great. Anything you learned that you didn't know before?
Well, just the approach on, let's see, what chapter was it? I don't remember. But he talked about how it's different now,
Mm-hmm.
right? There were 3 things on different zones and how you approach that so that you lead the customer, you don't force them.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Excellent insight. That's great. I think, Ben, you were next. Is that right? Or
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a good perspective. I think it's right that you have to, there's many paths. You have to be open to let the buyer take their path, providing information, providing connection. At the hard part, and he doesn't really address, is the attention part.
oh yeah.
Trying to get a slice of someone's attention sufficient to get them to even enter the funnel, or in
Yeah.
this case, pick a path. It's hard.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's our challenge right now, and probably would be the same for Chris and others. There's so much out there.
Hmm.
We need to get their attention. And the beauty of this process is it's allowing them to pick a path, which is more likely to get them down the path than if you only have one entrance.
Agreed.
So that's good. I think it's good. I think it's maybe I won't give it a number rating to be fair, but I think the core idea is in examining how things change and spending the time to do the research and writing a book so people can reference the book and say, okay, here's a really nice way to move forward without having to reinvent something.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I'm a big fan. You really want, especially with these things and in other spaces, you want to be able to say, someone has used science, someone has used some analytical thinking and critical thinking to develop something that resonates. When you look at flow, they did all this research on how the brain gets into flow, and you benefit from it because you don't have to conduct all the experiments.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, if I set up this circumstance and I follow these steps, I'm likely to get into flow thinking and the flow mindset and get all this stuff done, and feel better about it. The same thing with mindfulness. There's all kinds of things that are out there that you benefit from someone else taking a huge amount of time to understand something that looks simple on the surface, but actually there was a lot more going on.
Yeah.
And when you look at, the insulting, I guess, but used car salesman comment, right? You memorize 3 things because it's easy. And then you just hammer away at those 3 things. And if you don't get success, it's not your fault that, well, something else is going on. But if you really look at it and someone has done the research that you truly understand what's happening, then you can make good decisions about how to get the benefits. That was a wandering response, but I think
Right.
when you talk about I'm a fan of people doing the hard work,
Yeah.
to understand. When I worked for the state of Colorado, we spent, at first, I wasn't quite sure why we did it, but when we started doing it, we spent a lot of time writing a book about how we managed to get government services to be effective and efficient.
Mm.
And then we shared that with people so other people would be able to say, oh, okay, now we understand all the variables. We can do the same thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually, even having done it, it took a lot of work
Yeah.
to get the book done.
There is a book that addresses the first part of what you said, and that's and maybe we should include it next year, the attention merchants, how to get people's
Ah,
attention. And I think that was the title of it, but, yeah, that talks about a systematic framework for actually getting the attention of the people that you want to get the attention of, at the right time. So maybe that's one we should include in our book club for 2026. I think Angel has left us, or sorry, I think Adila has left us. So Angel, you're next. Sorry. I said that backwards.
I do.
Um,
Adila is here.
Oh, she is?
uh,
Okay. Sorry.
yes, I don't know. I was I was cut, but I rejoined again. So
Oh, good.
yeah,
Glad you're here.
yes. So basically, because I have not read the book, so I cannot give it a rating because I
That's
have
fair.
not read it. So that won't be fair. But I think most of the things that you talked about today, the framework and everything, I think ABCI is already doing that for clients, and we are also not pushy with the sales for our clients as well, for our sales as well, and for the sales of our clients as well. And that's exactly what we also try to, you can say, teach, not teach, like try to, you can say, guide our clients as well, that how they can also make sales without being salesy. So I think that that's very good approach. And if I can read the book, then I can give more you can say comments, but this is for now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We will find a way to make that work. I don't know what that way is, but we'll find a way.
Yes.
Was it Angel or Chris next? I don't remember who joined next, but
I think I'll just go first.
okay.
Yeah. I also can't read the book because I haven't read it, but I really
Yeah,
enjoyed on
that's fine.
listening to the process on how the book really emphasizes revenue in B2B. And for me, the B2B the what I learned is that the destination isn't just the buying of the product. It is more on the business outcome that the client need, and that guidance speak directly why they are buying, like saving the company money for the ROI focus, and they want their operations to run smoothly for efficiency focus. And that alone, it gives me a wide idea of why these people really very tight in their information, because they really want to give their information to someone who can help them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And their information, they don't give it out like they used to, where there was a time when people would actually create a fake email address so that they could download people's white papers and so on. And, that just shows you how inefficient that fake funnel would be sometimes. So, right. But that's an excellent point. Thank you for that. Chris, what do you think?
I liked the review y'all guys did, but I have yet to read the book, so I'm gonna have to skip debating. But it's definitely something I'm gonna check out, and I'm still on the last book. I'm a little behind, but I like to join so I can gauge some interest in the book, so I can see what it's about.
No, it's totally fine to have not read the book. I think people's experience is 1,000 times more interesting than a particular book. It just gives us a conversation point, or a thing to start from. But I know you guys have learned a lot about customers in the time that you've been doing this, and a lot about capturing attention.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that you guys do better than a lot of our folks. You've kind of mastered that social media ethos that a lot of us are working on.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm glad I joined this and was able to get some insights, and I'll definitely take a reading, and then maybe we can connect again and go over what we've learned.
Absolutely. And if there's anything from the book that we should apply to what you're doing as well, next time we meet, we can talk about that and see what we can put together. Sometimes this sparks some ideas of, I know we've talked about this, but hearing it from a different angle really gives us a better perspective. So yeah, I appreciate you jumping in, and I'm glad you're here. All right. Well, I will let everybody get to their next appointment on time and get on with their morning or evening or day or whatever it is. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Hey,
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Paula. Very valuable. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, glad you were here.